So in this video I'm gonna show you that this new foldable phone trend isn't as crazy as I was thinking. It's some sort of retro vibe with this compact body and a large screen when you open it up. Now, brands usually send in the smartphones to be reviewed, but in this case, they took me to the phone in Barcelona. I had a full-day workshop with Marcos Alberca breaking down every single aspect of this phone, comparing it to the company's flagship and every other foldable phone I could find. So let's discuss the good, the bad, and mainly, who is this thing for? Yeah, I'm Mary. In this channel I help you with the tech tools to be creative. And as I said, welcome to Barcelona. We're here to test the Oppo N2 Flip, and right now we have a masterclass with Marcos Alberca, and I'm already late. Let's go. Now, if you're starting to check out the foldables right now, you might not realize how much of a conceptual change it is to have a mechanism like this. Suddenly you get characteristics like how flexible it is. In which positions can you put it up? How is the hinge? Can you see and feel the crease and when? And what can you do when it's closed, and is it a good experience at all? Okay, so kicking it off with the looks, and matte black would probably be my pick, but I understand that the pink purplish version is probably gonna make some people fall in love with it. Now, Oppo provides the cover, which in this case is actually split in two. Makes sense. And they also supply the charger, meaning that you can charge it in 1 hour from 0 to 100, but most importantly, you can charge it from 0 to 50 in about 25 minutes. So if you just need that extra juice to survive, it's a lifesaver. Now, it's got the biggest battery amongst the flips at 4300 mAh, and it recharges at 44 watts, even if the charger in the box actually is a little bit more powerful than that. The downside is that there's no wireless charge. But anyways, it comes with charger and cable. We know that it's not like this everywhere. Now, first thing you notice is how small it is when it's closed down. And holding like this, your thumb is all over the 3.26 inches external screen, making it really easy to swipe around. And as you can see here, there's no gap. And no gap means no dust and less scratches. The framing is very elegant, and I had to figure out a little bit how to open it with one hand only, but after you do it, it becomes a breeze. Oppo says the flip can stay between 45 and 110 degrees, and it's approximately what we're seeing here in this test. Now, if you saw it directly like this, could you even tell it's a foldable? It just looks like a normal screen. It's a 6.8 inches 120Hz refresh rate screen, meaning that if you're scrolling really fast, it feels very fluid, but if you're just reading something, it drops down to save the battery. Now, it's a bit unnerving to fold it for the first time, because you don't see the mechanism, you're just folding the screen itself. But it just does it, and Oppo says you could do it 400,000 times. To put in perspective, I average around 100 unlocks of the phone per day, which is, I know, it's not that good, but this week has been a little bit better. Anyways, that would be 4,000 days, which is slightly over 10 years. Now, the crease only when wide open, and in some lighting situations you can actually notice it. And the sensation with the finger is almost 100% flat. And since I was testing it, I was kinda conditioned to trying to see it every single time, but especially when the screen is not totally black, it's very difficult to notice. The fingerprint sensor is actually on the power button and not below the screen itself, maybe some space issues. The volume button is also on the side, and it could be used also to fire up the camera fast, but I always had a little bit of trouble with it. On the other hand, you can always use face recognition, open or closed. Now, when you begin to play with it, the first thing you notice is how the apps respond to the states of open, half closed, or closed. An app that represents this very well is the camera. When the phone is wide open, the interface is standard. The moment you start to fold it down, you see that the preview goes to the upper screen and all the controls remain on the bottom. And if you want to play the old school filmmaker, you could also do it. Now, the star of the show is when you click the small button over here and voila! You activate the external preview, which just makes it much easier to shoot yourself, and especially in this situation you're doing it with the main camera. And the controls flip also, so you could do everything from the external screen or just use some magic. You can't do it from very far away, but you can set a timer and then go back in position. The cool part is that you don't even need to open the phone to set up the camera. You can just do it from outside, face unlock, swipe, photo, video, and boom. And the camera department is powered by a Sony sensor and a 50 megapixel 1.8 wide-angle lens, just beside a 8 megapixel ultra-wide lens. And of course I was gonna take a closer look at this department, and one thing that I noticed was that to use those 50 megapixels, you have to turn it on in the menu, and you can only shoot 4x3. And yeah, it's definitely a little bit sharper when you zoom in and the dimensions of the picture are way bigger. So if you're thinking about cropping or printing, it's a good option to have. Otherwise, it's gonna shoot at 12 megapixels, which is still plenty of detail, especially if you're looking at the pictures on the phone. Now, I went totally nuts comparing it to my Find X5 Pro, and the results were very satisfying. Meaning the Flip's phone is not basic at all, especially when you pair it with the AI feature, reducing noise and adapting to the conditions you're shooting. Now in portraits, indoors and outdoors, it looked really good. You tell me which one of these you prefer and I'll tell you the smartphones in 3, 2, 1. That's it. Both great at cutting out the subject, and actually the preview on the Flip was a little bit better. On the X5, the cutting of the subject fluctuates around a little bit, making you think it's not gonna work, but then the processing comes and it looks like this. One more thing to notice in this test is that the X5 Pro has a telephoto lens that can be used in the portrait mode. The ultra-wide-angle lenses are never available for this. Now comparing this on Lightroom, the cutout and the skin tones were very good on both of them. But on the Flip there was a little bit too much action from the AI sensors moving out the skin, while the X5 Pro kept a little bit more detail. But keep in mind that we are super zoomed in. Now regarding video, it does a great job, but it has some limitations. First of all, the Flip doesn't have OIS, so this is how it looks compared to the X5 Pro. Impressively stable anyways, and at this point I had 30 people behind me trying to pass, just waiting for my stable walk to finish. All for the science. Now the Flip shoots up to 4K 30 frames per second, and it looks very good even on the computer. Now if you move over to the ultra wide angle, or if you activate the preview screen on the outside, you fall back to 1080p. By the way, I even forgot about the selfie lens, which is a 32 megapixels camera, but I would only use it when doing some video call, otherwise I would go with the main camera. Now, if you wanna pixel peep some of the shots, I'm gonna leave some of them in the description below. And talking about the description, the subscribe button is also very close there, so if you wanna click it, feel free to do so. Now, not only you can fire up the camera from outside, but also you can add some virtual paths if you wanted, and you can also add some widgets to make that number of unlockings per day a little bit lower. Or maybe to count also. Now you got weather, timer, a voice recorder, controls for the headphones, and access to quick answering messages with some pre-configured messages and emojis. Now here's one of the big question marks about this phone. With such a nice big screen, you could do actually much more than this. So the only thing that I can imagine is that the developers wanted to grant a perfect experience for the widgets and avoid a limited experience for some other apps like seeing videos, for example, that wouldn't be for everyone, or texting on a very small keyboard. But with people demand, and mainly being a software issue, I see that an update is gonna come very soon. And then we're gonna be able to see many other apps integrated here. Now internally, you're gonna see 3 great collabs, and one we mentioned already, which is the Sony sensor. Another one is with Mediatek and its 9000 Plus processor. The 9000 Plus sits even above the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 that we find in many flagships all over. This just means that the phone is very fluid and you could even game on it. The other one is with Hasselblad for the camera department, and I just love the colors, out of camera, and the interface here. You get RAW, you get a Pro mode, and many other cool shooting modes that you can play around with. Some other things to notice are the possibility of using 2 SIM cards at 5G, which is not the case in every flagship phone. A lot of them limit the second SIM card at 4G and don't even tell you very clearly about that. And it also supports eSIMs, which is very practical, especially when you're traveling. You just download it, install it, and you have a data plan and connectivity wherever you are. Another thing they had to think of is how they position the antennas for the connectivity and also the NFC sensor, so that you can use the phone in open or closed state and it would still work. And I had absolutely no issues with it. Now we also got to go to the Mobile World Congress, and there I managed to compare it a little bit with the competition. And my verdict was that this Flip just updated every aspect of what's out there until now. It's not perfect, but especially the external screen is so much better. Like this screen, for example, just doesn't make sense in my opinion. Now price-wise, and it can be one of the most important things, you can find it for £850 in the UK, which is roughly $1,000. And in Italy here, you can find it for €1,200, which is about $1,300. Now, is it worth it? For a first generation flip phone, Oppo really nailed this with the flagship specs. The camera is really good. The preview screen is definitely the best one out there. It feels and looks good, and it's just a completely different experience. Now, if all you want is the absolute best specs out there, you'd need about $200 to $300 more to go for the X5 Pro, for example. And then you're gonna get a bigger battery, and even faster recharging, and a better overall camera. Even if the difference wasn't that noticeable as we saw in the test before, but you would get all the resolutions across all the lenses. All in all, you gotta pick the best tool for what you do. So let me know in the comment section below if you'd use a phone like this, and if you have any other doubts about the Oppo N2 Flip. Now, to see some more content like this and to see the backstage of the production of these videos, check me out at FlyHenry across all social medias, and thanks again for Oppo for organizing all this trip and to let us play a little bit with the N2 Flip. And I'll see you in the next video. Ciao! Important disclaimer, Oppo is not sponsoring this video and they do not get to see it before it's published. They did provide us though with accommodation and the phone to play with, but we didn't get to keep it. By the way, thanks a lot to Marcos for the workshop, Marika for being the model, and everyone at Oppo that helped organize this day. See you in the next one. Ciao!